Hello and welcome to the Woodland Gnome class. In this class, I'll be using the supplies in the picture. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. To start off, I'm going to be using my styrofoam cone. This is about a 5 to 6 inch styrofoam cone. Either size will work, 5 or 6 inches for this project. I'm going to grab some scrap material and I'm just going to line the bottom with it, and before I even cut my material to shape, I'm going to just apply it with the hot glue and then trim off that excess. Once I have that trimmed, I'm going to go around and make the little tab snips in it. Now that I have it glued down, I'm going to go ahead and line the side. So I like to kind of line it up with the bottom part of the cone and then roll. And to get this amount of material, I just lay the cone down and pre-roll it around the cone to kind of see how much it would take to wrap it. And then I trim it off and I then will apply the glue and wrap that cone. And I like to start at the bottom for the placement because it makes sure that I end up with enough to cover the top of the cone. And then I'm just going to trim off my excess. Next, I'm going to work on the legs. So I've got this stripy material that I got from a shirt, and the width is about 3 inches wide and 9 inches long. That's more than enough length for this particular project. I like to give myself plenty. I'm just going to take these little wires out of those little hair rollers, and I'm going to take a dowel rod and mark it right in the middle at 6 inches, and then I'm going to cut it in half. And you could alternatively use the pre-cut 6-inch dowel rods. I'm just using what I had on hand. I'm checking the placement. And now I'm going to mark the hair roller at 4 inches on both of them. And then this will allow me to cut off the excess so that I have a little bit of the dowel rod overhanging on both ends. So I want enough to insert it into the body of the gnome as well as into the shoe. And right here I noticed that my ends weren't even, and since I'm using stripe material, I like to make sure that they're even. So I'm just trimming off the excess so that they have more of a straight edge. And now I'm ready to place my little hair roller on the material. So I'm just adding a little bit of glue to the opposite ends on each one of these pieces of material. And then I'm going to roll it inward. But before I finish it off, I'm going to go ahead and cut off that excess material. And then you'll also see me fold in the other side and glue it together as well to kind of create a little bit more finished edge. Alright, now I am ready to insert the dowel rods and move on to the next part, which is going to be the arms. For the arms, I'll mark the hair roller at 5 inches. Now I'm using the same material that I used to wrap the body for the arms, and it's really important that I keep in mind the position of the material, so I want it to go the same direction as the body. So here in a little while you'll see me grab that material and show you that, but it's important just to remember, if you have a specific pattern on your material, that it's going the same direction. So I'm right now just folding up the bottom edge that's going to be the bottom of the sleeve and gluing it down, and then you can see here's where I'm showing you the direction. Now I'm going to take the little pattern piece for the hands, and I'm going to cut 4 little pieces of felt, and then I'm going to glue the edge. Alternatively, you could sew this. Okay, now I'm ready to turn my material right side out, so I'm going to use my handy dandy long needle nose pliers. This is one of my favorite tools. So I'm going to turn both of these around, and then here in a moment you're going to see me start to wrap the ends of those hair rollers, and I realized that I didn't glue the end down to the hair roller, so I will end up unwrapping them in a moment and hot gluing them and then re-wrapping them again. So I didn't catch my mistake right away, but I do catch it. Alright, now I'm ready to move forward. I'm going to go ahead and cut this excess material off, and then you'll see me place my hair rollers at opposite ends. I like to do this on both the legs and the arms, and then roll inwards. And again, you'll see me fold over the end before I finish, so that it has kind of a finished off look. Now I'm just making sure that everything's glued down well and going to cut off that excess material. Now I'm ready to move on to the pants, and here is where I make another little mistake, but it's not a big deal. So I made a mistake by adding the glue in a way that would be normally for, I'm thinking I'm sewing. So I placed the glue right on the outside line, so that if I was to flip this and turn it the other way, I realize right now that it's not going to work. So here I tried to fix my error, and then I really realized I messed up. but it was okay. I'm still going to use the same piece of material and go on the inside this time, gluing those two pieces together. And then once I turn this right side out, those white lines will still be inside. That was the biggest thing, was making sure my white lines were going to be inside my material and not end up on the outside. So I'm adding hot glue to both of those ends. And once that hot glue has set, I'm going to pull those ends together. And you can see now I'm lining up the leg parts. So I'm just showing you, I'm going to add hot glue from one side at a time around the curve. As if I was sewing, I'm just using my hot glue gun. I'm going to do the other side here in just a moment. And I'm going right up against the edge where I left off before. And then I'm going to go right down to the very bottom of the material. And I would recommend letting this set for a moment before you turn it right side out if you're doing the hot glue method. If you do not, you'll end up pulling your seams. And I know it takes a little bit of patience, but if you can, just let it set for a second and maybe move on to another step and then come back. It'll turn out to be a perfect pair of pants. Now we're ready to move on to the shoes. And I have two pieces of felt that I've cut out as the shoe, and you'll see me start at the toe. I'll just thread my needle, tie a little knot in the bottom, and then I'm going to start right at the toe and work my way up to the top. And I love to do that little blanket type stitch, so you'll see me go in, and then I pull it tight, and then I go in the same spot again, and then I go through my loop and pull it tight. And then I'm ready to move, so I'm going in from the back this time, and I'm ready to move down just a little bit, and I'll go through my loop and scoot down a little bit more. And I realized I was going to go in the wrong way, so going back in through the back and going through my loop, and I'll do this continuously all the way up to the top of the little shoe, and then you'll see me tie it off. And now I'm going to do the same thing for the back part of the shoe, so the heel. And I went ahead and left this in so you could just see me go through the steps. But again, I just tie a knot and start at that bottom heel, and then I will do the same stitch going all the way up the back. Alright, now I have it finished on the edges, so I'm going to turn it right side out and check the placement, make sure it looks good, and then I'm going to turn it back inside out to start on the bottom. So just make sure you remember to turn your shoe back inside out to finish putting the bottom of the shoe on. I wanted to show me cutting out this part because I think it's important, whether you're sewing or gluing or however you're doing it. Notice how I'm cutting a little extra edge around this shoe, so I'm not cutting it right on that line. This is important. It's going to help us have that shoe look at the end and give you enough material as well to work with. I'm going to grab my little pattern piece and trace the outline with a piece of chalk I love this particular chalk, and I get it at Hobby Lobby or Michael's in the art aisle. It is more of a charcoal type chalk. I highly recommend it, and I just kind of rub down the edge to give me a little bit of a point. And I'm going to turn those back inside out, and then I'm ready to place the toe to the heel, and I just kind of hold it in place. If you have another way that you find works better for you, you're more than welcome to do that. But I'm just going to hold on to that toe while I start, and since I'm working inside the shoe, I'm not worried about where the knot's going to be, so I'm just going to go ahead and start it and tie it off. I just like to make sure that the toe and the heel stay where they're supposed to be, and I keep that in mind as I work around the shoe so I don't end up with lumps or big spaces or a weird shaped shoe. Alright, now I'm ready to turn my shoe right side out, so I'm just going to flip it. It's going to take me a second. With these little shoes it's a little bit more difficult, but it will turn. Now that I have both shoes turned right side out, I am going to take that same little shoe pattern piece and I'm going to make a little sole for the shoe. So I'm just tracing this on a hard piece of cardboard, and I'm going to do both shoes, and then I'll cut them out and fold them and insert them. Now I'm going to take my little hex nuts and some hot glue. So I'll squeeze a little hot glue towards the toe. I've kind of angled my shoe so I could do that, and sticking that first hex nut in towards the toe. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other shoe, and then I will do the other one on the heel and start to fill it with polyfill. Now I'm adding a little bit more hot glue into those little hex nuts, and then I will insert those dowels with the shorter end down. And then I just push enough of that dowel. I push the hair roller down far enough to where it's flush with the little hex nut inside. And once that's set up a little bit, I'll add a little bit more polyfill to the shoes, and then I'm ready to put the shoes onto the body. So I've kind of used the legs to kind of help me mark so I can see where I want them, and I'm going to do it again a little bit. And then once I've marked really well, I'm going to use my little X-Acto knife and just cut a little X into those spots, and then I'm going to squeeze in a little bit of hot glue and then place the dowel. While that hot glue sets up, I'm going to go ahead and work on my little vest. The way that I've made this pattern will make it really easy for you to make the vest. All you'll need to do is glue those top two tabs. So I'm going to apply hot glue here on both little tabs, and then I'll fold it and press it, and then once it's set, we'll turn it right side out, and it creates just a great little vest. And I'm alternatively going to show you another way to do the vest where you snip the bottoms and pull, and I absolutely loved the way this looked, so I went ahead and went with it for this particular character. So this is where I'm snipping those edges, and I'm cutting about 1 inch, maybe just a little bit less, long snips, and I'm cutting them about 1/4 of an inch wide, maybe not even that wide. And then I'll pull, and if you're going to do this, do not pull too hard. If you do, you'll end up pulling the little tabs all the way off. I would recommend trying this on just a spare piece so you can kind of get an idea of how hard to pull or not pull, because you'll be sad if you end up pulling it too hard and then you pull the tab all the way off. Now I'm going to grab those pants and go ahead and put them on the body, and I just kind of have to wiggle them a little bit to get them over the shoes, but they go over just fine. Now once I pulled them all the way up, I felt like the pants legs were just a little bit on the long side, and I really wanted to be able to see his stockings. And so here I'm kind of folding it under to see if I like the look, and I do. So I'm going to grab a needle and thread, and then I'm going to go on the inside of the pants leg just a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of create like an in and out stitch, and you'll see me do this. I try to show it pretty clearly, about 1/2 inch up, I would say, or the width of my finger. And I try to maintain a straight line all the way around so you can kind of see I'm trying to keep it straight. And I'll go all the way back to the beginning. And then once I get to the back to the beginning, I'm going to tuck under that material onto the inside, and then I'm going to pull tight and tie it off. And this will create kind of that bunched looking leg or pants leg that's really cute. Okay, now I have both pants legs done. I'm going to go ahead and move up here to the top, and I accidentally pulled in a little bit of hot glue that was hidden in there, so I'm trying to get that out real quick. Now I'm going to do that same kind of in and out stitch around the top edge just to create kind of a fun little bunchy look at the very top. So again, I'm going to try and stay pretty even going around, in and out, and I'm making smaller stitches this time instead of the wide ones that I did on the pants. Now I'm ready to move on to the hat. You can sew this optionally. I am going to hot glue it this time. So I'm just going to start that bottom edge and go all the way up, and I'm only going to do about halfway at a time. You see me pause. I'm going to grab my little metal ruler and use the metal side to kind of press it down. It just helps things cool off really quickly. And then I'm just smashing, making sure everything's pressed in really good so there's no gaps. And then I'm going to go ahead and do where I left off and do a little bit more up to the top. And then I'll press it down again, and then I'll be ready to flip it right side out. Okay, now I'm grabbing my handy dandy needle nose pliers, and I'm going to go in and grab it and pull through. I'm going to try it again, and this time I am going to get it and pull it through, and then you'll see me use it to push that tip also back up. Now here's a bonus hat that I went ahead and added in. This, I did not love the way this looked on my character, but you may enjoy it, so I thought I would leave it in just in case if you wanted another option. Again, I'm just lining those edges with hot glue. I'll press them together and turn that hat right side out. Now I'm ready to start working on attaching the arms to the body. So I grabbed that piece of brown felt just so you could see what I was doing. I am hooking those two arm pieces together, and I'm going to use some pliers to smash that little hook together on each one. Now I'm going to take this other wire from one of the little hair rollers, and I'm just going to clip about 2 inches off. So you'll see me clip it, and then I'm going to bend it in half, and I'm creating kind of an anchor, a hook for the arms to be held in place so they do not come off at any point in time. It's very secure. So I'm just kind of figuring out placement right now, pressing that in real good to kind of mark where I was, and then I'm going to grab my marker so you can see where I was pressing. Now I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and cut the little holes for those, and then I'm going to take my glue gun and insert some hot glue in there once I've kind of pushed in those holes. So now I'm going to insert some hot glue, and then I will add the arms and reinsert that hook. And now that I have that done, I am ready to start putting the clothes onto the character. So I'm going to grab those little vests that I made and try them out and see which one I like best. And this is where I decided that I really like the one with the little tassels, so I went with that one. Now I'm going to grab the beard material and the material for the nose and start working on that. I'm using jersey knit, so it's kind of stretchy for the nose, and then it's just matching the felt for the hands. And I'm taking some polyfill. You could alternatively do a cotton ball, but I'm just kind of rubbing it down into to make like a little bag. And I will say, using the polyfill is a little bit easier to work with than the cotton ball. The material going through it when you're trying to sew to make the little nostrils, it's just easier to achieve. Once I get the material into the little bag shape, then I grab some string and I'm just wrapping it really tightly over and over and over and over and over. When you think you have enough, you still need to wrap a little bit more. And then I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue. And I'm going to use the little excess that is hanging off and tie a knot a couple times. I just want to make sure this is really extra secure so that this lasts. Now I'm going to go ahead and start making the little nostrils. So I'm just going to kind of tie off my thread, and then I start at the very back, and you see here I kind of shape my nose so that I know where I'm going, and then I'm going to go up into that first side, pull it tight, and then I will go about 1/4 of an inch back towards that knot and pull it tight, and I'm going to do that twice. I'm going to go in that same spot and back again. That's why I'm checking where my thread was. So back in that spot, back to the other side, always staying by the knot when I come out, and then I'm going to move over to the other side of the nostril. So here I'm shaping it so that I have that next nostril created, and then I'm going to go in from the back again, and probably about a pinky's width apart from the other nostril. I'm going in and I'm going to do that same little stitch to create that other nostril. Once I'm done and I tie it off, I'm going to go ahead and snip that extra thread, and then I always add just a little bit more hot glue just to secure that in place. Now I'm ready to place the nose, and the way that I do that is I take that beard material and I have glued a little pinch in the top to sit on top of that cone, and right below that, kind of in the middle of the beard material, I create a little X or cross, just a very tiny one, and then I'll insert the nose piece into the front of that. Once I get it inserted, I will apply a pretty good amount of hot glue to really secure that nose piece in place, and then I will end up gluing a little piece of felt over the back of it and kind of trimming it down as well, just to really secure the nose to the beard material. Now that I have that nose secured in place, I'm going to go ahead and place it on top of the cone, and here is where I'll see how it looks, and then I will glue that top part where it's pinched to the top of the cone, and then I'll also glue the front where the nose is. Now I'm ready to add a little bit of blush to him, so I'm just going to grab some blush and a little brush, and I'm going to add some to his nose, and then I'll also add some to his hands. Now I'm going to take some craft paint. This is just like a titanium white or a really bright white craft paint. And I'm going to add 3 little dots to his nose for the little freckles. I love adding the little dots to the nose or the cheeks. This is one of my favorite things to do. So I'm just adding those little dots with my dotting tool. And then I'm going to add a little button. And now we're ready to make ears. So I'm going to take some scrap felt, and I just have 2 little pieces here, and I'm using my thumb and finger as a guide for how wide I want it to be, and I'm just going to cut it into a point, and you can see I just snip it off, and then I'll come back and cut the other side. So I flip it over, and then I'm just going to cut that other side to kind of create the point, and that will give me the perfect little ear. Next I'm going to grab some faux fur and I'm just going to cut a really thin strip, probably less than 1/4 of an inch. It's very thin. And then I realized as I'm going through this, I wanted it even thinner. So you'll see me start off with this size and then I cut it down a little bit thinner for those little ear tufts. And this is completely up to you if you want to add the tufts in the ears and how much to add. It is all up to you. My faux fur is actually extra long, so I just turned it long ways and I am cutting the excess off, and you see I'm cutting it straight at it. So I'm trying to show you that I'm going straight across and just doing little snips across instead of taking a hard snip and cutting it so that it ends up with a straight edge. This will give it a more natural edge. And once I get it to where I like it, I will be ready to attach it. And I just add a little bit of hot glue on the bottom half of the ear. I don't want to go all the way up the ear, so you'll see me do that here in just a second. And then I fold the little earpiece around it. So I kind of fold it in half around it and then add more hot glue. Now I'm almost ready to attach the ears, but I want to add a little bit of hot glue to the nose so it stays in place. So I'm going to grab some really quick and do that. Now I'm kind of playing with the position, seeing where I would like the ears positioned at, and then once I figure that out, I will mark it with a marker, just a little tiny mark, and then that way I know where to make my little cuts. So then I'll make my little cuts and then insert the ears and glue them. Now I'll add one last dot of hot glue to the back of the character, and then he's all done and ready to go. And there he is.